stars had never been so quiet. 300 years had passed since the Great War ended, and the galaxy had settled into a comfortable peace. The Galactic Concordat ruled over hundreds of worlds, keeping order through the pacification accords. These ancient treaties made sure no one could build weapons big enough to destroy planets. Everyone agreed this was good. Everyone except humanity, though they kept that opinion to themselves. Captain Marcus Stone stood on the observation deck of Mining Station Alpha 7, watching the sunset paint the barren landscape in shades of orange and red. To any visitor, this looked like just another dead world being stripped for minerals. The massive excavation equipment moved slowly across the surface, gathering precious metals from the rocky ground. Dust clouds followed the machines like golden ghosts in the thin atmosphere. But Marcus knew the truth. Beneath his feet, hidden deep in the planet's core, the real work was happening. This wasn't just a mining operation. It was the most ambitious construction project in galactic history. "Sir, the Vorak inspection team just left orbit," reported Lieutenant Sarah Chen through his communication device. "They didn't detect anything unusual." Marcus smiled. Of course they didn't. The ethereal Vorak, with their flowing energy bodies and superior attitudes, saw only what they expected to see. To them, humans were just another primitive species, barely worthy of membership in the Concord. They handed out mining rights to remote worlds like scraps to hungry animals, never imagining that those same worlds could hide something extraordinary. Inspection had gone exactly as planned. The Vorak officials had toured the surface facilities, examined the mining equipment, and reviewed production reports. They had seen human workers in simple clothes operating basic machinery. They had watched or being loaded onto transport ships bound for the inner systems. Everything appeared normal, boring, and completely harmless. They had no idea that the mining tunnels extended far deeper than any normal operation required. They couldn't detect the massive construction chambers carved from solid rock, hidden behind layers of sensor-blocking materials that humans had spent decades perfecting. The energy signatures were carefully masked, made to look like normal mining equipment. Even the gravitational readings appeared normal, thanks to precisely placed counterweights throughout the planet's structure. Marcus walked through the station's corridors, past workers who nodded respectfully as he passed. These people knew they were part of something important, even if they didn't understand the full scope. They had signed agreements that would keep them and their families comfortable for life in exchange for their silence and service. Most had grown up on worlds like this, children of the first generation of secret workers, who had begun this project when the pacification accords were still fresh. He took a lift that supposedly led to the lower mining levels. Instead, it descended much further, past multiple security checkpoints and through sealed chambers that would resist even Militarara sensors. Finally, the doors opened onto something that would have shocked any alien inspector. The construction bay stretched for kilometers in every direction. Massive fusion reactors provided power to industrial fabricators that worked without rest. Robotic systems moved raw materials through precisely designed pathways, building components that would eventually become part of something magnificent and terrible. The air hummed with energy and purpose. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the project's chief engineer, approached with a datapad in her hands. Her face showed the satisfaction of someone whose impossible dream was becoming reality. "The primary hull sections are 60% complete," she reported. "The fusion core is running at optimal efficiency, and the weapon systems are ahead of schedule. At this rate, we'll finish construction 2 months early." Marcus nodded, looking up at the enormous structure taking shape in the center of the bay. It was difficult to comprehend the size of what they were building. When complete, it would be larger than most moons, with firepower that could shatter asteroids and armor thick enough to withstand direct hits from capital ship weapons. But the most impressive thing about it was that no one in the galaxy suspected it existed. "What about the other sites?" Marcus asked. Kepler Station reports similar progress. "The Titan project is actually ahead of us. They've already begun installing the primary weapon arrays. Commander Rodriguez thinks they'll be ready for testing within 6 months. Marcus felt a surge of pride. Across dozens of star systems, humanity was quietly building a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Each project was disguised as a simple mining or agricultural colony. Each appeared harmless to alien inspectors who visited regularly. But together, They represented the largest military buildup in galactic history. The plan had started 3 centuries ago, just after the pacification accords were signed. Humanity had been new to galactic politics then, grateful for any place at the table. But some far-sighted leaders had realized that peace treaties were only as strong as the people who enforced them. They had also realized that being dismissed as primitive had its advantages. While other species focused on art, philosophy, and cultural exchange, humans quietly studied alien technology. They learned about advanced manufacturing techniques, exotic materials, and energy systems far beyond what Earth had originally developed. More importantly, they learned about the blind spots in alien thinking. The elder races of the galaxy had grown comfortable with their superiority. The crystalline Sirens believed their mathematical precision made them perfect strategists. The hive-minded Kellery thought their collective consciousness gave them unmatched coordination. The energy-based Vorthak considered themselves beyond physical limitations. Each species was so confident in their own strengths that they failed to recognize human adaptability. Humans had always been good at learning from others while keeping their own secrets. They had perfected this skill during their early space expansion, when Earth's nations competed for colonies and resources. Now they applied the same principles on a galactic scale. The genius of the plan lay in its simplicity. Instead of trying to build a traditional fleet that could be detected and counted, humanity chose to build weapons that looked like something else entirely. Dead worlds and large asteroids provided perfect camouflage for massive construction projects. The galaxy was full of such objects, and no one paid attention to minor mining operations in remote systems. Marcus walked along an observation platform that overlooked the main construction area. Below him, automated systems worked with tireless precision. Components that would eventually become railguns the size of skyscrapers were being assembled by machines that never made mistakes. Shield generators capable of protecting small cities were taking shape in specialized fabrication chambers. Engine systems that could move a moon-sized object at significant fractions of light speed were being tested and calibrated. The psychological profiles were correct, Dr. Vasquez said, joining him at the railing. The aliens see what they expect to see. We show them mining equipment. They assume we're miners. We show them agricultural settlements. They assume we're farmers. They never look deeper, because they never imagined we could be anything more. This had been perhaps the most important discovery of the early planning phases. Alien psychology, despite surface differences between species, followed predictable patterns when it came to dealing with supposedly inferior races. They were polite, condescending, and completely uninterested in human potential. This blind spot had allowed humanity to work in plain sight for 3 centuries. The mining cover story had been particularly effective. Every alien species needed raw materials, and extracting them from dead worlds was considered boring, necessary work, perfect for a species like humanity that was thought to be good at following simple instructions, but lacking in creativity or ambition. The aliens were happy to let humans handle the dirty work, while they focused on more important matters. But humans had always understood that today's boring work could become tomorrow's strategic advantage. The same mining techniques used to extract minerals could also be used to hollow out entire planets. The same industrial equipment used to process ore could also be used to manufacture weapons. The same transport systems used to move materials could also be used to move military supplies. As the years passed, the secret network had grown. Carefully selected humans were recruited for the project, usually from families already involved in the Outer Rim colonies. Children grew up learning that their real job was much more important than what they showed to alien visitors. They learned to play their roles perfectly, appearing simple and harmless, while working on projects that would reshape galactic power. The communication systems alone represented a marvel of engineering and deception. Messages traveled through seemingly normal commercial networks, hidden in shipping manifests and mining reports. Alien inspectors regularly examined these communications and found nothing but routine business correspondence. They never suspected that production schedules for iron ore also contained coded updates on weapon construction, or that requests for additional mining equipment were actually requests for military materials. Marcus checked his watch. In a few hours, another inspection team would arrive, this time from the Kari Collective. They would see the same carefully prepared surface facilities, meet the same friendly human workers, and review the same innocuous production reports. They would leave satisfied that humanity remained a minor species, focused on simple tasks, never imagining that they had just visited one of the most sophisticated military installations in the galaxy. The beauty of the deception was that it required no lies, only selective truth. The mining operations were real and profitable. The ore really was shipped to inter-system markets. The workers really did live simple lives focused on their assigned tasks. Everything the aliens saw was completely genuine. They simply weren't shown the deeper levels where the real work happened. Dr. Vasquez activated a holographic display showing the construction schedule for all active sites. Dozens of projects appeared as glowing dots, scattered across the galaxy's outer regions. Each one represented years of patient work, thousands of dedicated people and technology that pushed the boundaries of what was thought possible. The Zephyrians have increased their patrol schedules in Sector 7, she reported. Nothing to worry about, just routine adjustments. Their mathematical models suggest optimal efficiency requires regular pattern changes. Marcus nodded. The Zephyrians were the most militarily advanced species in the Concord, but even they fell victim to their own assumptions. Their crystalline minds worked in perfect mathematical harmony, but this very precision made them predictable. They followed logical patterns that human strategists had learned to anticipate and work around. The patrol schedule changes were actually helpful. They provided cover for material shipments between construction sites, allowing humanity to share resources and coordinate development across multiple projects. What the Zephyrians saw as efficient patrol management, humans used as a transportation network for military supplies. As Marcus prepared to return to the surface levels, he reflected on how far they had come. 3 centuries ago, humanity had been grateful for the chance to join galactic civilization. They had accepted junior membership status and remote colony assignments without complaint, but they had also quietly begun preparing for a future where gratitude alone wouldn't be enough to ensure survival. The galaxy believed in the pacification accords because 300 years of peace had made them complacent. They assumed that everyone shared their contentment with the current order. They never considered that a species might agree to be bound by treaties while secretly preparing to transcend them. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would discover just how much they had underestimated humanity. But for now, Marcus was content to let them sleep peacefully, never suspecting that their wake-up call was already under construction. Admiral Sarah Chen had never imagined she would command something like this. Standing in the control center of what appeared to be a barren mining world called Kepler 442c, she looked through reinforced windows at the most powerful warship ever constructed. The irony was not lost on her, that no one in the galaxy suspected this place existed. From space, Kepler 442c looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, a dead world with modest mining operations scattered across its surface. The same operations that had fooled alien inspectors for decades continued to function normally, extracting real minerals and shipping them to legitimate buyers throughout the inner systems. But those surface facilities were merely the shell around something magnificent and terrible. The planet itself was the warship. Status report, Sarah commanded, her voice echoing through the vast control center built deep within the planetary core. All primary systems operating at full efficiency, reported Commander Torres from the engineering station. Fusion reactors are stable, gravitational manipulators are calibrated, and weapon systems are ready for final testing. The camouflage systems continue to function perfectly. To external sensors, we still appear to be a standard classum dead world with minimal industrial activity. Sarah nodded, walking along the central platform that overlooked the primary operations center. Below her, hundreds of technicians worked at stations that controlled systems spread throughout the entire planet. What they had accomplished here challenged every assumption about what was possible with available technology. The project had taken 80 years to complete. 3 generations of human workers had lived their entire lives on Kepler 4042c, maintaining the surface deception while constructing something unprecedented in the planet's depths. The engineering challenges had seemed impossible at first. How do you turn a planet into a spaceship? How do you hide fusion reactors the size of cities? How do you build weapons that can destroy other planets while making sure your own planet doesn't tear itself apart? The answers had required completely new approaches to everything, from structural engineering to power distribution. Humanity's greatest minds had worked in secret, developing solutions that alien science had never considered necessary. The result was something that transcended the traditional boundaries between ship and world. "Show me the primary weapon systems," Sarah ordered. The main display activated, showing a cross-section view of the planet. What appeared to be a solid rocky world was actually honeycombed with chambers, conduits, and installations. Massive railguns ran through the planetary crust, like veins, their barrels extending from surface to core. Shield generators were distributed throughout the structure, each one capable of protecting a city-sized area. The fusion reactors that powered everything were built into the planet's natural structure, using geothermal systems as additional cooling. But the most impressive feature was the gravitational manipulation system. Using technology adapted from alien gravity generators but improved far beyond original specifications, the planet could move itself through space, not quickly by ship standards but with enough speed and precision to function as a mobile battle platform. More importantly, the same gravitational fields that provided propulsion could also be weaponized, creating zones where enemy ships would be crushed by their own weight. "The Vorak inspection yesterday went perfectly," reported Lieutenant Williams from the intelligence station. "They examined our quarterly production reports and found everything satisfactory. Mineral output is up 3% from last period, which they attributed to improved efficiency in our mining operations." Sarah smiled at that. The improved efficiency was real, but it had nothing to do with mining. The automated systems that maintained the surface deception were getting better at their jobs, requiring less energy, and producing more convincing results. The extra 3% came from optimizations in the camouflage systems, not from extracting more minerals from already depleted deposits. The intelligence station monitored alien activities throughout the sector, tracking patrol routes, inspection schedules, and communication patterns. Over the decades, human analysts had mapped alien behavior with scientific precision, learning to predict their movements and adjust operations accordingly. This knowledge had been shared across all construction sites, allowing the entire network to function as a coordinated whole. "Any unusual activity in the other sectors?" Sarah asked. "Titan Base reports successful completion of their primary weapon arrays. They're ready to begin stealth trials within the month. The Prometheus project has encountered some delays with their shield integration, but nothing that will affect the overall timeline. All other sites remain on schedule and undetected." The scope of what humanity had accomplished still amazed Sarah. 17 planets, scattered across 12 sectors, each one converted into a warship of unprecedented power. The logistics alone represented an achievement that should have been impossible. Moving materials and personnel between sites without detection, coordinating construction schedules across multiple star systems, maintaining consistent cover stories for decades of alien inspections. But perhaps the greatest achievement was keeping it all secret. Thousands of people had worked on these projects over the centuries, and not one had revealed the truth to alien authorities. This wasn't just because of security measures, though those were extensive. It was because every person involved understood what they were building and why it mattered. Humanity had learned hard lessons during their early expansion into space. They had discovered that the galaxy was not a friendly place for species that appeared weak or divided. The pacification accords had brought peace, but it was a peace enforced by species that considered themselves superior to everyone else. Humans were tolerated, not respected. They were given assignments, not choices. The elder races meant well in their condescending way. They genuinely believed that preventing large-scale warfare was good for everyone, but they also assumed that they would always be the ones making decisions about how that peace should be maintained. They never considered that other species might have different ideas about galactic governance. Sarah walked to the tactical display, where holographic representations of nearby star systems rotated slowly in the air. Each system was marked with symbols indicating alien patrol schedules, military installations, and civilian populations. The data had been gathered over decades by human traders, miners, and colonists who appeared to be going about normal business while actually conducting the most comprehensive intelligence operation in galactic history. "Show me the latest communication intercepts," she ordered. The display changed to show decoded alien transmissions from the past week. Most were routine administrative messages between concorded officials discussing trade agreements and cultural exchanges. But several items caught Sarah's attention. The Zephyrian Third Fleet has altered its patrol route again. Williams reported they're spending more time in sectors adjacent to human colonies. The pattern suggests increased vigilance, but their reports indicate no specific concerns. This was expected. The Zephyrans were the most militarily sophisticated species in the Concord, and their crystalline minds were naturally suspicious of irregularities. Over the years, they had occasionally detected subtle anomalies in human-controlled space. Unusual energy signatures, gravitational fluctuations, or communication patterns that didn't quite fit normal commercial activity. But each time they investigated, they found exactly what they expected to find. Human colonies focused on mining and agriculture, with populations that seemed genuinely surprised and honored by alien attention. The investigations invariably concluded that any anomalies were caused by normal industrial activity or natural phenomena. The Zephyrans never realized that their own mathematical precision worked against them. Human strategists had learned to anticipate their investigation methods and prepare accordingly. When Zephirian analysis suggested that energy readings were 17% higher than expected, humans made sure their cover operations actually produced energy readings that were exactly 17% higher than expected. When gravitational sensors detected unusual fluctuations, those fluctuations were carefully designed to match patterns that would be produced by large-scale mining equipment operating under specific conditions. "Any word from the deep reconnaissance teams?" Sarah asked. Agent Patterson reports from Zephyran Space that their new battlecruiser designs show no significant improvements over previous models. Agent Morrison confirms that Kari Hive ships remain focused on defensive configurations. Agent Zhang has observed Vorak Energy Fleet exercises and notes no tactical innovations that would pose a threat to our capabilities. This intelligence network was another aspect of the project that alien authorities completely underestimated. They saw human traders and workers throughout concorded space and assumed these people were simply pursuing economic opportunities. They never suspected that many of these individuals were actually trained intelligence operatives, carefully observing alien military capabilities and reporting back through hidden communication channels. The information gathered by these operatives had been crucial to the weapon design process. Human engineers knew exactly what kinds of threats their ships would face, what defensive systems alien vessels employed, and what tactical doctrines governed alien military thinking. This knowledge had been incorporated into every aspect of the planet's ships, from weapons selection to armor design to tactical planning. Sarah moved to the weapon control station where Chief Gunner Rodriguez was running diagnostic checks on the primary railgun arrays. "How are our big guns performing?" she asked. "Better than specifications in every category," Rodriguez replied with obvious pride. "The magnetic acceleration systems are achieving muzzle velocities 15% higher than design parameters. Targeting computers can track and engage multiple targets simultaneously, across planetary distances. And the best part is that the firing signatures are completely masked by the planet's natural electromagnetic field. This had been one of the trickiest engineering challenges. How do you fire weapons powerful enough to destroy spaceships without creating energy signatures that would be detected by alien sensors? The solution involved using the planet's own magnetic field as both a power source and a camouflage system. When the railguns fired, their energy signatures were channeled through the planetary magnetic field in ways that made them appear to be natural phenomena. "What about the gravitational weapons?" Sarah asked. "Even better. We can create localized gravity well, strong enough to crush a battlecruiser. And to external sensors, it looks like a natural gravitational anomaly. The aliens' own physics models work against them. They see readings that match their theoretical predictions for unusual, but perfectly natural gravitational effects. The gravitational weapons represented perhaps the most innovative aspect of the planet ship design. Instead of relying solely on traditional kinetic or energy weapons, humanity had learned to weaponize gravity itself. The same technology that allowed the planet to move through space could also be focused into tight beams that would make enemy ships too heavy to maneuver or create zones where the laws of physics worked differently enough to disable alien technology. Sarah checked the chronometer. In a few hours, a routine supply convoy would arrive from the inner systems. bringing replacement parts for the surface mining operations and personnel transfers for the cover story workers. The convoy would see exactly what they expected to see: a productive but unremarkable mining world, contributing to the Concorde's economic prosperity. The convoy crews would never suspect that they were delivering supplies to the most powerful warship in galactic history. They would never imagine that the friendly human workers who helped unload their cargo were actually military personnel, trained to operate weapons that could shatter moons. They would never realize that the barren landscape around them concealed technology that made their own ships look like primitive toys. "Prepare for the arrival sequence," Sarah commanded. "Make sure all deep-level operations are secured and all personnel are in their surface positions. We need this to look exactly like every other routine supply delivery." As her crew began the familiar routine of switching from warship operations to mining colony simulation, Sarah reflected on how far they had come. The first generation of planners had dreamed of building a fleet that could defend humanity's interests in a galaxy that saw them as junior partners at best. But what they had actually accomplished was far more ambitious than those early dreamers had ever imagined. They had built something that could reshape galactic civilization itself. 17 planet-sized warships, each one more powerful than entire alien fleets hidden in plain sight throughout concorded space. When the time came to reveal them, the balance of power would shift so dramatically that the old order would collapse overnight. But that time had not yet come. For now, Sarah was content to maintain the deception, continuing to play the role of a simple mining administrator while commanding the most sophisticated weapon of war ever constructed. The galaxy could continue to sleep peacefully for a while longer, never suspecting that their wake-up call was already complete and waiting for orders. Commander Zephys Alpha Prime felt the crystalline structure of his consciousness vibrate with concern as he studied the sensor readings from his flagship. The mathematical patterns were wrong. For 3 weeks, his fleet had been investigating gravitational anomalies in Sector 15, and the data refused to fit into any known model of natural phenomena. "Analysis confirms the readings," reported his subordinate, Zephys Beta 7, his crystal body glowing with focused attention. "Energy signatures in this region are consistently 17.3% higher than baseline calculations would predict. The gravitational fluctuations follow no pattern found in our databases of natural stellar phenomena." The Zephyrian Third Fleet represented the most advanced military force in concorded space. Their crystalline ships moved through the void with mathematical precision, their crews thinking in perfect harmony, with quantum computers that could calculate the movement of entire star systems. If something was wrong in this sector, they would find it. "Increase long-range sensor resolution," Zephys Alpha Prime commanded. "Focus on the human mining world designated Terminus 7. The anomalies appear to be strongest in that vicinity." The tactical display updated, showing a detailed scan of the system ahead. At its center, a typical human colony world rotated slowly around an aging yellow star. Surface installations dotted the rocky landscape, extracting minerals that would be shipped to manufacturing centers in the inner systems. Everything appeared normal, predictable, and completely harmless, but the mathematics didn't lie. Something in this system was producing energy readings that exceeded natural limits. "Sir, we are receiving a standard commercial greeting from Terminus 7, reported the communications officer. "Administrator Sarah Chen welcomes us to their system and offers any assistance we might require." Zephys Alpha Prime considered the options. Human colonies were always cooperative during alien inspections, sometimes annoyingly so. Their administrators seemed genuinely honored by official attention and eager to demonstrate their compliance with concorded regulations. This cooperation had sometimes made them seem simple and boring to Zephyrian minds that preferred complex challenges. Acknowledge their greeting and inform them we will be conducting a detailed sensor sweep of their system. He decided standard procedure for investigating gravitational anomalies. The response came quickly, as it always did from human colonies. Administrator Chen expressed her complete understanding and cooperation. Her people would be happy to answer any questions and provide any assistance the Zephyrian fleet required. She hoped their visit would be productive and educational for both species. Analysis of their response patterns indicates typical human administrative behavior. Beta 7 reported, "Vocal stress patterns suggest genuine surprise and curiosity about our investigation. No indication of deception or concealment. This was what they always found when investigating human space. The humans seemed sincerely puzzled by alien interest in their activities, as if they couldn't imagine why anyone would find their simple mining and farming operations worthy of special attention. Their behavior patterns matched psychological profiles of species that had nothing to hide. But the sensor readings still didn't make sense. The Zephyran fleet moved deeper into the system, their advanced sensors probing every asteroid, moon, and space station for signs of unusual activity. The mining operations on Terminus 7 continued normally, with cargo ships arriving and departing on regular schedules. Industrial equipment moved across the surface with the slow persistence typical of large-scale extraction operations. Detailed scans confirmed the presence of standard human mining technology. Beta 7 reported fusion-powered excavation systems, automated ore processing facilities, and electromagnetic transport networks, all within expected parameters for a Class C mining world. Yet something was still wrong. The energy signatures were too strong, the gravitational readings too precise. Natural phenomena should show more random variation. These patterns suggested artificial control, but the humans had no technology advanced enough to produce such effects. "Take us into close orbit," Zephys Alpha Prime ordered. "I want to examine this world personally." As the flagship moved toward Terminus 7, Administrator Chen's voice came through the communication system again. She sounded excited about the opportunity to show alien visitors around their facility. Most of her people had never seen Zephyrian crystal ships before, and they would be honored to meet such distinguished representatives of concorded civilization. The enthusiasm seemed genuine, but Zephys Alpha Prime's mathematical mind noticed subtle patterns in the human communications. Response times were exactly optimal for their apparent distance from the communication array. Background noise matched precisely what would be expected from industrial operations of the reported type. Even minor details like power fluctuations in their transmission system followed predictable patterns. It was all too perfect. Real operations should show more random variation. "Sir, we're detecting a massive energy surge from the planet's surface." Beta 7 reported his crystal form flickering with alarm. "Power levels are increasing exponentially across all frequency ranges." The tactical display exploded with new information. What had appeared to be a simple mining world was suddenly showing energy readings comparable to a Zephyrian battle station. But this was impossible. Human technology couldn't produce power outputs of this magnitude. "Battle stations," Zephys Alpha Prime commanded. But even as he gave the order, he knew something was fundamentally wrong with their understanding of the situation. The surface of Terminus 7 began to change. What had looked like rocky terrain started to shift and reconfigure. Mining equipment moved aside, revealing structures that definitely weren't designed for mineral extraction. Massive weapons emerged from hidden installations, their targeting systems already locked onto the Zephyrian fleet. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force," came a new voice over the communication system. The friendly mining administrator was gone, replaced by something much more dangerous. "You are trespassing in sovereign human space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Zephys Alpha Prime felt his crystalline consciousness reel with shock. The Human Defense Force. No such organization existed in any concorded database. Humans didn't have sovereign space. They were junior members of galactic civilization, assigned to mining colonies under concorded authority. "This is impossible." Beta 7 transmitted in harmonic confusion. "Humans do not possess military technology of this sophistication. Our databases indicate their capabilities are limited to basic industrial applications." The tactical display told a different story. Energy readings from Terminus 7 now exceeded anything in Zephyrian experience. The planet itself seemed to be transforming from a mining world into something that belonged in nightmares. Weapon systems the size of cities were emerging from the surface. Shield generators were creating defensive fields strong enough to protect entire continents, and the gravitational readings were becoming truly terrifying. "Sir, the planet appears to be moving." Beta 7 reported, his voice harmonizing with disbelief. "It's adjusting its orbital position. The gravitational field is being manipulated artificially. This violated every law of physics and engineering that Zephyrian science recognized as possible. Planets didn't move on their own. The energy requirements would be astronomical. far beyond anything even the most advanced concorded technology could achieve. Yet the sensor readings were undeniable. Terminus 7 was no longer just a world. It was a weapon. Fleet dispersal pattern. Theta 7. Zephus Alpha Prime ordered, falling back on military training even as his mathematical mind struggled to process the impossible situation. All ships target the primary weapon installations. We need to disable their offensive capabilities before they can engage. But as the Zephyrian fleet moved to attack positions, something even more disturbing became apparent. The human weapon systems were tracking every ship simultaneously, adjusting their targeting solutions faster than Zephyrian computers could calculate evasive maneuvers. This level of coordination should have required a hive mind consciousness like the Carry possessed, not individual humans working with primitive technology. Incoming transmission. The communications officer reported. The human admiral is requesting to speak with our fleet commander. Zephus Alpha Prime accepted the communication, his curiosity overriding his tactical concerns. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main display, showing a middle-aged human woman in a military uniform he didn't recognize. Her expression was calm, but determined, like someone who had prepared for this moment for a very long time. Commander Zephus Alpha Prime, she began, somehow knowing his designation without being told. I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary. Your investigation has discovered something we've spent 3 centuries preparing. I'm hoping we can resolve this situation without violence. Explain, he commanded, his voice harmonizing with authority despite his confusion. What you call Terminus 7 is actually one of 17 planet-class warships that humanity has constructed in secret. Admiral Chen said calmly. We've been building them for 300 years, hiding them in plain sight, while your species assumed we were just simple miners and farmers. The mathematical impossibility of this statement made Zephus Alpha Prime's consciousness flicker with processing errors. 17 planet-class warships hidden for 3 centuries. The logistical requirements alone should have made such a project detectable by any competent intelligence network. This is not possible. Beta 7 transmitted on a private frequency. Our surveillance of human activities has been comprehensive. We would have detected construction projects of this magnitude. But even as he thought this, Zephus Alpha Prime began to understand the scope of what they had missed. The mining operations throughout human space, the simple agricultural colonies, the boring industrial facilities that alien inspectors had visited for decades. What if none of it had been what it appeared to be? You've been watching us for 300 years, Admiral Chen continued, and you've seen exactly what we wanted you to see. Simple humans doing simple jobs, never imagining we could be anything more than what we appeared to be. It's been the most successful deception in galactic history. The tactical display updated again, showing energy readings from Terminus 7 that now exceeded the combined output of the entire Zephyrian Third Fleet. Weapon systems were powering up that could destroy his flagship with a single shot. Shield generators were creating defensive fields that could probably withstand a coordinated attack from multiple battle groups. What do you want? Zephus Alpha Prime asked, his mathematical mind finally accepting that the situation had moved far beyond his understanding. Right now, I want you to return to concorded space and report what you found here. Admiral Chen replied. Tell them that humanity is no longer content with junior membership status. Tell them that the pacification accords need to be renegotiated. Tell them that we're ready to take our place as equals in galactic civilization. And if the Concordant refuses, Admiral Chen's expression hardened slightly. Then tell them that we have 17 of these ships, Commander, and we've had 3 centuries to plan for every possible response they might try. The communication ended, leaving Zephus Alpha Prime alone with the most disturbing revelation in Zephyrian history. They had been completely outmaneuvered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The humans had used their own assumptions against them, hiding the greatest military buildup in galactic history behind a facade of simple competence. All ships withdraw to minimum safe distance, he ordered. Prepare emergency communications to Concord at command. As the Zephyrian fleet retreated, Zephus Alpha Prime composed the message that would change everything. The galaxy's 3 centuries of peaceful sleep were about to end, and humanity was holding the alarm clock. High Counselor Vorak Prime materialized in the center of the emergency assembly chamber, his energy form crackling with barely contained fury. Around him, representatives from 7 species had gathered, in response to the most disturbing intelligence report in concorded history. The crystalline Zaparians, the hive-minded Kari, the plant-like Verdani, and others all focused their attention on the holographic display showing Commander Zephyrus Alpha Prime's impossible discovery. "This cannot be accurate," declared Hive Queen Kari Supreme, her collective voice speaking through dozens of drone bodies simultaneously. "Our intelligence networks monitor all human activities. They are miners and farmers, nothing more. They lack the technology and coordination for military projects of this scope. The sensor readings are mathematically irrefutable," Zephyrus Alpha Prime responded, his crystal form pulsing with each word. What appeared to be the mining world Terminus 7 is actually a weapon platform with firepower exceeding our most advanced battle stations. The humans have somehow converted an entire planet into a warship. Vorak Prime's energy body shifted through several colors as he processed this information. The Vorak had been the primary architects of the pacification accords, using their mastery of energy manipulation to enforce galactic peace for 3 centuries. The idea that a junior species had been secretly building weapons that violated those accords was almost incomprehensible. "Show us the full tactical analysis," he commanded. The holographic display updated to show detailed scans of Terminus 7, now clearly revealed as something far more than a simple world. Weapon systems the size of mountains emerged from camouflaged surface installations. Shield generators created defensive fields visible even from space. Most disturbing of all, the planet itself had moved from its original orbital position, demonstrating gravitational control technology that surpassed anything the Concorded possessed energy output equivalent to 17 Zaparian battle stations. Zephyrus Alpha Prime reported weapon systems capable of engaging multiple capital ships simultaneously across planetary distances, defensive capabilities that would require coordinated fleet actions to penetrate. And according to their admiral, this is only one of 17 such installations. The silence that followed was broken by Counselor Verdani Root, whose massive platform rustled with agitation. 17. They claimed to have built 17 planet ships. The resource requirements alone should have been detectable by our economic monitoring systems. Unless, Kari Supreme said slowly, their mining operations were actually resource gathering for military construction. Our hive mind analysis indicates this would explain several anomalies we previously attributed to human inefficiency. Vorak Prime felt the first stirrings of real concern. For 3 centuries, the elder species had maintained galactic order through careful management of military capabilities. They had assumed that any species ambitious enough to challenge that order would reveal themselves through obvious preparations. The idea that humans had been preparing in secret, using their apparent simplicity as camouflage, represented a failure of intelligence that threatened the entire concorded system. "What response did the humans demand?" he asked. "Renegotiation of their membership status," Zephyrus Alpha Prime replied. "They no longer accept junior partnership in the Concordat." Admiral Chen indicated they consider themselves equals now deserving of full representation in galactic governance. "Impossible," declared Counselor Nexus 7 of the Machine Intelligence Collective. "Human cognitive capabilities remain within previously established parameters. They lack the processing power required for strategic planning on this scale." But even as Nexus 7 spoke, Borthak Prime was beginning to understand that their assumptions about human capabilities had been fundamentally flawed. The elder species had always measured intelligence by their own standards. The Vorak valued energy manipulation. The Zephyrans prized mathematical precision. The Kari focused on collective consciousness. They had never considered that humans might possess a different type of intelligence, one focused on adaptation and deception. "Mobilize the combined fleet," Vorak Prime ordered. "If the humans have truly built 17 planet ships, they represent an existential threat to galactic stability. We cannot allow them to dictate terms from a position of illegal military strength." The response was immediate and coordinated. Within hours, emergency communications were transmitted to every major military installation in Concordat space. The largest combined fleet in galactic history began assembling at strategic positions throughout the core systems. Over 10,000 ships from 7 different species, representing the accumulated military might of galactic civilization. The Zapharan contribution alone included 4 complete battle groups with their newest crystal ships. vessels capable of precise long-range engagement using focused energy beams. The Kalari hive ships brought overwhelming numbers of coordinated fighters that could swarm any target. Vorhak energy ships could phase through solid matter and strike from unexpected angles. Together, they formed a force that had never been defeated in 3 centuries of peacekeeping operations. 3 days later, this overwhelming force arrived at the Sol system, expecting to find a primitive world defended by obsolete human technology. What they found instead challenged every assumption about warfare, civilization, and the nature of power itself. Multiple massive energy signatures, detected throughout the system, reported Fleet Intelligence Coordinator Kari Delta Prime. The third planet from the star is heavily fortified with defensive installations that were not present in our most recent surveys. Admiral Vorak Prime, commanding from his flagship at the center of the formation, studied the tactical displays with growing unease. Earth looked nothing like the simple world described in intelligence files. The planet bristled with weapon installations, orbital platforms, and defensive systems that radiated power signatures comparable to major military bases. Sir, detecting movement from the 4th planet came another report. Luna Base appears to be mobile. The gravitational reading suggests it's actually an artificial construct, not a natural satellite. The implications hit Admiral Vorak Prime like a plasma bolt. Luna wasn't a moon. It was a space station the size of a moon, designed to look natural, while actually serving as a massive weapons platform. How long had it been there? Hidden in plain sight, while alien dignitaries visited Earth for diplomatic functions. Incoming transmission from Earth, the communications officer announced. Admiral Sarah Chen requests to speak with the fleet commander. The main display activated to show the same human admiral who had confronted Zephyrus Alpha Prime. She appeared calm and professional, but Admiral Vorak Prime now recognized the subtle confidence of someone holding a superior position. Admiral Vorak Prime, she began, I assume you're here in response to our revelation at Terminus 7. Before this situation escalates, I want you to understand what you're facing. You are in violation of the pacification accords, Admiral Vorak Prime replied, his energy form pulsing with authority. Surrender your illegal weapons and submit to concorded justice, and we will consider limiting the consequences. Admiral Chen actually smiled at that. I'm afraid the pacification accords were written by species who assumed they would always be the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. You never considered what would happen if someone else surpassed your capabilities. Impossible. Human technology remains primitive compared to concorded standards. Does it? Admiral Chen asked. Computer activate revelation protocol. What happened next redefined Admiral Vorak Prime's understanding of the possible. Throughout the solar system, worlds that had appeared normal suddenly revealed their true nature. Mars shed its surface camouflage to show massive weapon arrays. The asteroid belt reorganized itself into defensive formations, revealing that many of the rocks were actually camouflaged installations. Even the outer planets showed signs of artificial modification, suggesting that humanity had been rebuilding their entire star system for military purposes. But the greatest shock came when 17 energy signatures appeared on long-range sensors, approaching from different directions through hyperspace. The planet ships Admiral Chen had mentioned were arriving, converging on Sol system with impossible coordination. 17 mobile worlds, Admiral Chen explained as the tactical display updated to show the approaching vessels. Each one more powerful than your entire combined fleet. We've spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment, Admiral. Every inspection visit, every diplomatic meeting, every trade negotiation gave us opportunities to study your tactics and technology. We know exactly how you think, how you fight, and how to defeat you. The first planet ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system, and Admiral Vorak Prime felt his energy matrix fluctuate with shock. The vessel was enormous, easily the size of a large moon, but it moved with the precision of a fighter craft. Its weapons were already powered and targeted, tracking multiple ships in the concorded fleet simultaneously. This is World Ship Titan, Admiral Thompson commanding, came a new voice. All concorded vessels are ordered to power down weapons and prepare for inspection. Any hostile action will result in immediate retaliation. More planet ships continued arriving, taking positions throughout the system that demonstrated tactical sophistication far beyond what Admiral Vorak Prime had expected from human commanders. They weren't just powerful, they were coordinated, professional, and obviously operating from a comprehensive strategic plan. "How?" he finally asked. "How did you accomplish this without detection?" "You saw what you expected to see," Admiral Chen replied. "Simple humans, doing simple jobs, never imagining we could be anything more. You were so confident in your superiority that you never looked deeper." Every mining operation was also a construction site. Every agricultural colony was also a training facility. Every trade ship was also gathering intelligence on your military capabilities. Admiral Vorak Prime realized they were facing something unprecedented in galactic history. This wasn't just a military uprising by a discontented species. This was the result of centuries of careful planning by minds that had understood the galactic order better than the species who created it. "What are your terms?" he asked. "Complete restructuring of galactic governance." Admiral Chen replied, "Equal representation for all species, regardless of their technological development at the time of first contact. An end to the condescending attitude that treats some species as inherently superior to others. And most importantly, recognition that the age of elder species dominance is over." The combined fleet faced a choice that would determine the future of galactic civilization. They could fight against impossible odds, or they could accept that the galaxy had fundamentally changed while they weren't paying attention. As 17 planet ships took positions around the combined fleet, Admiral Vorak Prime understood that humanity's 3 centuries of patient preparation had achieved something remarkable. They hadn't just built weapons. They had built a new future, one where strength came not from assumed superiority, but from the willingness to adapt, plan, and never give up. The age of human equality had begun, whether the galaxy was ready for it or not. 1 year after the revelation that changed everything, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Hall, watching representatives from dozens of species take their seats for the first truly equal governing session in galactic history. The massive chamber built in neutral space between the old concorded core worlds and human territory represented a compromise between old power and new reality. The Zepyrians occupied their crystalline seats with mathematical precision, their formations designed to optimize acoustic harmony and information exchange. The Kari delegation buzzed with collective conversation as their hive minds processed the implications of shared governance. Even the ethereal Vorthok had materialized in stable energy forms, their usual superiority replaced by careful attention to new political realities. At the center of it all, humanity held seats equal to any other species. Not junior membership, not observer status, but full representation in galactic decision-making. It had taken the demonstration of 17 planet ships to achieve what 3 centuries of diplomatic requests could not accomplish. The Assembly recognizes Admiral Sarah Chen, representing the Human Federation, announced the new galactic coordinator, a Verdani named Root Speaker Prime, whose massive plant form had been chosen specifically for its neutrality among the competing species. Sarah rose to address the Assembly, knowing that every word would be analyzed by intelligence services throughout the galaxy. The transition from secret military buildup to open diplomatic participation had required careful management, but humanity had proven as skilled at peace as they were at preparation for war. "Honored colleagues," she began, "I want to thank you for your acceptance of the new galactic order. The Human Federation looks forward to contributing our perspectives and capabilities to the challenges we all face together." The response was polite but cautious. Most species were still adjusting to the idea that humans were no longer the simple miners and farmers they had appeared to be for so long. The psychological shock of discovering that a supposedly primitive species had secretly developed the most powerful military force in galactic history was still being processed by alien psychologists and strategic analysts. Counselor Vorak's secondary materialized more solidly as he prepared to speak. The Vorak Collective acknowledges human equality in this assembly. However, questions remain about the extensive nature of your military preparations. 17 planet ships represent capabilities far beyond defensive needs. Sarah had expected this concern. The sheer scope of humanity's secret construction program had frightened many species, even those who accepted the new political arrangements. The idea that humans had been planning and building for 3 centuries, while maintaining perfect operational security, suggested capabilities that made everyone nervous. Our construction program was designed to ensure that humanity would never again be in a position where our survival depended on the goodwill of others, she replied diplomatically. The 17 world ships represent insurance against threats that we hope will never materialize. This was true, but it wasn't the complete truth. The real scope of human preparation extended far beyond the 17 revealed ships. Hidden throughout the galaxy's outer regions, dozens of additional projects continued under the deepest levels of classification. Because while the galaxy now knew about humanity's military capabilities, they still didn't understand the full extent of human planning. Commander Tangway, stationed aboard the hidden world ship Prometheus in the Outer Veil region, monitored deep space sensors that tracked objects moving between galaxies. His assignment was known only to the highest levels of human command, watching for threats from beyond the galactic rim. Because humanity's 3 centuries of preparation had been based on a simple premise: the universe was probably not a safe place, and Earth's survival required planning for every possible threat. Long-range sensors detect multiple objects on approach vector from Andromeda Galaxy, Zhang reported through encrypted communication channels. Estimated arrival time, 47 years. Configuration suggests artificial construction. This was the information that had driven human military planning from the beginning. Deep space observations had detected signs of expanding civilizations in nearby galaxies, some of which showed concerning patterns of conquest and resource consumption. The pacification accords had created peace within the Milky Way, but they provided no protection against external threats that the elder species refused to acknowledge. Back in the assembly hall, Sarah continued her carefully prepared speech about cooperation and mutual benefit. But part of her attention was focused on the quantum encrypted message from Commander Zhang. Humanity had always known this moment would come eventually. Their secret preparations had been designed not just to achieve equality within galactic civilization, but to prepare that civilization for challenges it didn't even know were coming. The Human Federation proposes the establishment of joint research programs to advance galactic defense capabilities. Sarah announced, "We believe our combined knowledge and resources can address threats that no single species could handle alone." Zephys Alpha Prime, now serving as the Zephyrian representative to the new assembly, responded with characteristic mathematical precision. "Human military technology has proven more advanced than our intelligence indicated. Sharing such knowledge could benefit all Concordat members." What he didn't know was that the military technology demonstrated so far represented only a fraction of human capabilities. The real advances were hidden in projects that made the 17 world ships look like simple engineering exercises. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, human scientists worked on technologies that could manipulate space-time itself, creating defensive systems that would make invasion of the galaxy impossible, regardless of the attacker's strength. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now Director of Advanced Research for the Human Federation, stood in Laboratory Complex Omega, watching her team test gravitational manipulation technology that could create stable wormholes between distant star systems. The applications for rapid deployment of defensive forces were obvious, but the implications went far beyond military strategy. "Successful test of controlled spatial folding," she reported to Sarah through secure channels. "We can now create instant transportation networks between any points in the galaxy. Deployment timeline for full defensive grid, 18 months. This was humanity's real ace in the hole. While the galaxy focused on the revealed world ships and debated the implications of human equality, human engineers were building a transportation network that would allow instant response to threats anywhere in galactic space. When the approaching civilization from Andromeda arrived, they would find not a collection of separate species protecting individual territories, but a unified defense, coordinated through technology they couldn't detect or counter. The Kari delegation buzzed with collective curiosity as they processed Sarah's proposal for joint research. The hive minds find merit in combined knowledge sharing. Kari Prime announced human problem-solving approaches differ from collective thinking patterns. Integration could produce innovative solutions. Sarah nodded approvingly. The Kari hive mind capabilities would be crucial for coordinating the defensive systems humanity was secretly installing throughout the galaxy. But she couldn't reveal this yet. The other species needed time to adjust to human equality before they could handle the truth about external threats and humanity's preparations to address them. We propose starting with joint exploration missions to the galactic rim. Sarah suggested there are regions of space that remain unmapped and combined. Expeditions could advance our understanding of local stellar phenomena. This was cover for establishing monitoring stations that would provide early warning of the approaching Andromedan civilization. Human deep space sensors were already tracking the invasion fleet, but more monitoring points would allow better assessment of their capabilities and intentions. Counselor Verdani Root rustled his massive branches thoughtfully. The Verdani approve of expanded exploration. Our photosynthetic networks could establish monitoring stations in regions too remote for conventional settlements. Perfect. The Verdani botanical networks would provide ideal camouflage for the sensor arrays humanity needed to track the approaching threat, and their natural communication systems could serve as backup networks for coordinating galactic defense when the time came. As the assembly session continued, Sarah reflected on how far humanity had come. 1 year ago, they had been considered junior members of galactic civilization, assigned to perform simple tasks, while their supposed superiors managed important decisions. Now they were equal partners in governance, with their advice sought on matters of galactic security and technological development. But equality had never been the real goal. From the beginning, human planners had understood that survival in a dangerous universe required leadership, not just partnership. The 17 world ships had achieved equality. The hidden projects, now nearing completion, would establish humanity as the galaxy's protector, whether the other species realized they needed protection or not. Motion to approve joint exploration initiatives. Root Speaker Prime announced as the formal voting began. The motion passed unanimously, as Sarah had expected. Every species wanted to understand human capabilities better, and exploration missions provided opportunities for that understanding without appearing suspicious or confrontational. What they didn't understand was that humanity was already several steps ahead of them. While they debated governance structures and research partnerships, human engineers were completing projects that would redefine the possible. Transportation networks that could move fleets instantly across galactic distances, sensor grids that could detect approaching threats from neighboring galaxies, weapon systems that made the planet's ships look like primitive clubs, and most importantly, coordination systems that would allow all of these capabilities to function as a unified defensive network when the time came to use them. Sarah concluded her address to the assembly with words that carry deeper meaning than most listeners understood. The Human Federation looks forward to a future where all species can pursue their goals in safety and prosperity. We stand ready to contribute whatever resources and capabilities are necessary to ensure that future becomes reality. The applause was polite and diplomatic, but Sarah knew that history would remember this moment differently. Not as the beginning of human equality, but as the moment when humanity openly accepted responsibility for galactic security. The other species didn't know they needed guardians yet, but they would understand eventually. In the meantime, humanity would continue doing what they had always done best, preparing for challenges that others couldn't imagine, building solutions that others couldn't detect, and making sure that when the test came, they would be ready. The galaxy had awakened to find humanity as their equals. Soon enough, they would discover that humans had never been interested in mere equality. They had been preparing to be protectors, guardians of a galactic civilization, too comfortable in its peace to defend itself against the darkness between the stars. And in 46 years, when the first ships from Andromeda crossed into Milky Way space, they would find that their conquest had been anticipated, prepared for, and would be stopped by a species that had spent 4 centuries turning the galaxy into an unreachable fortress. The age of human guardianship had begun, even if only humanity knew it yet.